Lucas, I can see you again. Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. This is Own Your Gifts, episode 11. We're very grateful to have you again. This is Joey and I just sharing our experiences with recovery. And absolutely, we love to focus and talk about gratitude. Today we have an amazing guest. We'll get to him in just one moment. That's Dr. Lucas Carey. And Joey, how are you doing, mate?
I'm doing phenomenal. It was a beautiful day today. I had a thought before the show, and I'm kind of throwing it on you guys. Did we lose Lucas again? He keeps bowing out. The show must go on.
Was that your internet connection? Or is that mine, Joey? Then
my internet connection's strong, so we'll see what happens. But I'm definitely interested in getting to know Lucas better, and you know who he is and what he does and who he serves and his journey of overcoming adversity and turning that adversity to gifts to be of service to others. But I had a thought before the show as a good way to start off the show is for us to share, it's early in the day for you guys. You guys are at 11 a.m., but I'm sure you've gotten a few in, to share a win for us today, like something we did well today, to share something that we're grateful for today, and to share something that we're struggling with today, and keeping it really short.
Joey, let me bring Lucas on, and before we bring him on, if you're watching, please let us know where you're watching from. We love and we appreciate having you. Let's welcome Lucas onto the show. How you doing, Dr. Lucas?
Now he's got no sound, brother.
I can't hear you, Lucas. Well, I was hearing you before. Hang on, you're on mute.
Technical difficulties, man. It happens.
You there, Lucas? No, we can't hear you, mate. Sorry, buddy. Let us know if we can sort that out. It was working.
If you can hear us, Lucas, if you go to this the little button that says cam and mic, it's a little gear. You can click on that and go to sound or microphone, and you could play with those, and you'll be able to make sure that you have your earbuds hooked up in there.
How are we doing now?
Oh, you're good. Yeah.
I'm alive. Hey, good to see you,
brother. You're on mute again, Lucas. I don't know what's happening there.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, we'll just use this. That works for me. We're good now.
Yeah, welcome, mate.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen. I love what you guys do. I'm a big fan, and I feel privileged to be on here.
Lucas has actually got a radio show too, Joey. I don't know if you noticed.
Cool. I didn't know that.
I was a guest on his show, and I don't. Yeah, look, I really, really appreciate the feedback, Lucas, and it's awesome to have you.
What type of show is it? What do you guys focus on?
Our show is called Talking Time with Lucas and Alicia, and it's talking everything incarceration. It's on Apple, Spotify. It's on everything and sundry that goes with it. It's all on that, and effectively we have a really unique conversation. We have people with lived experience. We have practitioners. We have worldwide researchers. We have criminologists. We have people that are involved currently. We have mothers and fathers of currently and previously incarcerated people, job coaches. It's literally everything to do with incarceration we have, and there's no off topics. We have international guests. We are across 8 different countries are our audience, and we're into the thousands now of listeners, which is a really good thing.
And you've got an amazing co-host too, Alicia.
Alicia's good value. She's good. She's good. She is someone who doesn't have lived experience herself in incarceration, but she is an education advocate, and she's someone that just gets it. She gets me. She gets the scene. She gets the site, and she just comes in and keeps me on track. She gives me a good whack when I need one.
So
I talk too much.
Thanks everyone for joining us once again. We've got a few people live watching. Please let us know where you're watching. Where's this show heading today, Joey?
Well, we want to hear about Lucas's story, and Lucas, when you dropped off before, I had a thought before the show, and I figured it'd be a really good way to start off the show and test it out. Is for each one of us to I don't know, be really quick with it, like under a minute, to share something. And I know that it's early there. It's, what is it, 11 a.m. there? I'm 9 p.m. So I might have built up a few more wins than you, but to share a win for today, like something we've done well today, to share something that we're grateful for today, and to share something that we're struggling with today. And so for me, I'll go, and this is a vital part of my, my mental and emotional hygiene practice is identifying what I do well on a day-to-day basis. My mind, my diseased mind, my very human mind, usually is focusing on, where I'm falling short and how I'm not enough, and what I have that someone's going to take, or what I want that I can't get. And so I pay really, really, really close attention to, and when I started to do this, I started to get well of what I do well on a day-to-day basis. So I'll share a win with you for today. And it's something new that I've embarked on. And that is, I started working with a trainer, a personal trainer, physical personal trainer. And I used to be an athlete, and I haven't touched a weight since I was 21 years old. And he beat me up yesterday. And I'm about a month into it, and I was like the Tin Man when I woke up today, man. And I didn't want to move, and I wanted to take some Advil, and like I've committed not to do that because that's just not good for me. So instead, I stretched for an hour. I took 3 45-minute walks, and the more I moved, the better I felt. And by the time it was early morning, I was pain free. So that's a huge win for me. I wanted to share that. Something that I'm grateful for today. This is always a good one for me, but I got an opportunity to sit in the sun today, and I'm so grateful for the sun. I'm grateful for the warmth it brings me, and I'm grateful for how it makes me feel and makes everything grow. Something that I'm struggling with, which is becoming more and more apparent, is focusing on menial tasks instead of my highest priority actions, which is really just a procrastination. And I end up feeling like I'm doing a lot of work, but I'm really avoiding the work I should be doing. And that's something that I struggle with on a day-to-day basis, and trying to run a business. Danny, a win, a gratitude, and a struggle. Want to share with us?
I'd like to hear from Lucas first, Joey. And just on that note, aren't you in Perth, Lucas? Is that what you are? So you're like 3 hours. So it's actually only 8 a.m. for old mate.
Oh, well, I hope you did something right. Did you make your bed? Did you brush your teeth? You're all right. You shaved that head, that's for sure.
Yeah, go, Lucas, if you wouldn't mind, mate, before I share some.
The win for me, Fridays are a challenge because I teach, I lecture at a couple of universities, and the time difference gets me on a Friday because I have a tutorial that starts at 9 a.m. East Coast time, so that's 7 a.m. for me. So get the chances to make sure I get my cuddles from my boys in the morning. I get them organised and get that done. And I'm on the lecture this morning. So my win was that I got my tutorial done with my online team, and I got the chance to have some cuddles with my boys in the morning. That's always that's my win. Gratitude. I'll show gratitude the fact that as someone that was previously incarcerated, I have a full-time, good-paying job, and I'm in a position where I can help a lot of young people that are involved in justice issues, and a lot of people that are struggling with mental health challenges or substance issues or educational challenges in my full-time position. So I'm grateful that I get the chance to come to a place every day that legitimately the people around you need you. And the struggle links a little bit to the gratitude, is that I struggle sometimes, man, to keep fighting. And I know that sounds silly, but sometimes yesterday, and you guys are the first people that I'll say this to, yesterday, 3:30 in the afternoon, I just broke down in tears for some reason. And I was tired because I was tired of continuously having to fight. And what I mean by that is having to fight for a university working position, having to fight for a sport coaching position, having to fight with people that don't understand the context here in Australia with what we're trying to develop with, with lived experience, criminology, and with other ideas to help other people. And it hit me. So that struggle today, even though I processed it and tried to work through it yesterday, still exists. And I think, if we're talking about the seesaw, I reckon I'm probably 80% on the good, but that 20% of that struggle is sitting there. And that doesn't happen to me often, but it got me yesterday, and it's still hanging around today.
Thank you for sharing that, Danny.
Thank you, Lucas and Joey. I love this. It's three things. Yeah, win, grateful, and struggle. It's like an inventory, isn't it? We often talk about the benefits of doing a daily inventory. And yeah, it is kind of early. I guess my win. Look, my win is there's this fella at the gym. His name's Vinny. I went and had lunch with him yesterday, and it just like every day I just sort of say, I see him there, I say hello, how you doing, mate? And he always says, "Are you winning?" And if I ask him, "Are you winning?" he says, "I'm alive." And he's really humble, and I love just that. I guess also I joined this bit of a challenge at our gym about 22 days ago, and Jacob said to me this morning, "How's it going?" And I kind of scratched my head and I said, "Oh yeah, the challenge. I've almost forgotten about it, And someone else said to me there, if there's something you really need to change, you'll get motivated. And I said, well, I love my life, so probably that's why I've forgotten about it. So I guess that's my win, and I guess that's also my gratitude too. I spoke to my daughter this morning. She's sick, and she's home from school, and her spirits and her big smile, and she was brushing her hair. So that sort of made my day before I even left the door. And then my struggle, it's real, bro. My struggle, I come back into my driveway, and there's like, I shit you not, there's 6 cars in my driveway, right? Like it's hard to explain, but where I live, we've got this shared space out the front where the buildings around me pay for these car spots, and they're just jam packed in there, right? My car's right at the end, and I walk in, I just go, fuck off, like to all these cars, just to myself. But who cares? Like, it actually makes no difference. Just seeing all these cars there just made me think, and I just had a bit of a laugh to myself, like, who cares? So, yeah, that's my struggle, mate. But life is good, mate. So it's not really a struggle.
I love it. So I want to hear, Lucas, if you can tell us a little bit about, you mentioned of your past experience being incarcerated. How did you end up there? And then how you're turning that experience there into ways to not only support yourself and your family but to be of service to others.
Okay, mate, big question straight off the bat. So I suppose before we talk about anything to do with lived experience or anything about advocacy, I suppose I've got to give you an idea of me. I was working local government in Victoria, and was found guilty of receiving some secret commissions while I was working in mental management in government, and took those hand up, took and pleaded guilty right the way through, did what I had done. And obviously at the time was in an interesting headspace, was in an interesting space in our life as we were living above and beyond our means. We were, that whole mental race of trying to, keep up with the Joneses, for the sake of using that term, and to try and stay ahead. And I saw in a really perversely crazy way now that I think back, and I thought that this easy opportunity to be able to continue to live the lifestyle while we're living without necessarily taking anything away from my kids was a perverse way of me doing what I did. And I know that's no excuse. I'm big on no excuses on it. I'm just big on putting context on people's stories so that it actually makes sense rather than it just being an action, but you get to humanize it. And I'm big on that with anything, regardless of what a person's offence is, because there's a reason that something happens, but not an excuse. Anyway, so I was incarcerated for a year, had a couple of years of parole, and it was interesting because right from the start, the process was not fantastic. And what I mean by that is the process of the entire I suppose discovery and exploration of the facts of the case. We're trying to paint this as if this was the next big coming of world domination, and it was the Wolf of Wall Street, and the way the media proposed things and proportioned things, and the way that it was done when you get something put up on social media and you get a visit a day before Christmas is deliberately when this thing had been hanging over us for 4 years, and when you're found guilty of, sit down, $38,000 worth of money, and to have your world effectively hand grenaded, blown up, front page of the local newspapers, and to have four full-time investigative officers exploring you for that period of time for $38,000, and it blew me up mentally. Is every time the phone would ring, I was like, is this it? Is this the call? Is this the one that's coming? Is this what's going to happen here? You're in a position where you don't know what to do and what to say. You are just literally holding on to what you are sort of exploring as normal at that point in time. And that was that I still suffer from those mental challenges now, because there's still that trust mechanism is that as soon as that hit the newspapers, and anyone that's listening to this will get this, as soon as these half-baked stories or these inflated media stories hit, is their personal attacks on you, their personal attacks on your character. And then what unfortunately happens is people who you think are your friends, who you think are your family, they think are rusted on people, they drop you like a hot potato because it doesn't suit their own narrative, it doesn't suit their own story, or it doesn't suit their utopian bullshit idea of what their life should be and what everyone else should be doing in it. And that was an anchor and still remains an anchor to this day. And I'm going home to Melbourne in a few weeks' time for an event, and there's going to be family members and people that I'm going to see there that effectively turned on me from when this incident took place. And I've got to prepare myself for that. I've got to prepare my own self mentally, but I've also got to prepare what stature I'm going to take. So am I going to be the person that is the big guy and doesn't make a deal with it, doesn't make an issue, doesn't say anything, or how does that work? So I suppose to answer your question, mate, and I know I just went on a long rant, but that's me, get over it, is that the initial build up to actually before even going away was harder than the actual time away. And because of the fight, literally 4.5 years from the first, when you lost your first position, when they come in to go, the council guys and the bosses like, no, you're good, and then stand down, and then the processes that roll with it. Now, I don't profess to a second. I did what I did. I 100% did what I did. There's no victim blaming here. I was the one that did it, but it was the process to build up to it that causes and still to this day the biggest challenge, and was harder than incarceration.
Thanks for sharing, Lucas. And as you're saying, it's like that's how it affected you, and I appreciate you sharing that. And like, it obviously had a massive impact on you because you're quite passionate, and I can understand now where and why you do the work that you do. And guys, like anyone out there listening, like I had a past as well. I've been in recovery for 11 and a half years as Joey, but I'll tell you what, like you said, 38 grand was just one of those good days for me out there when I was so so you got 12 months full-time custody over
3 years. 3 years for that, and because it was, because obviously being in a position of, the whole way it was done in regards to, the contracts and stuff like that were rolled with it. But all the work was done. There was no, they weren't fake work. There wasn't fake anything, but it was the fact that it came back that way. But as I said, no excuse. I did it.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I've got to acknowledge that for sure, because a lot of people watching also don't come from a criminal background and record, and we need to acknowledge, like, whatever happens, whatever we did, I guess it makes you the person you are today, myself and also Joey,
Yeah, I think that's. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lucas.
So I'm just saying, it actually drives me too. Like, sure. And there's almost like it's almost a little intricate inside thing too, is that I want to make sure that when my boys are old enough to look up Google, they're going to look at Dad's name, and it's not just going to be negative stuff. It's going to be some stuff that Dad fucked up, which you're allowed to do in life. You're allowed to screw up. But the biggest lesson I can give him is you've got then the ability to fix it, to alter it, to change it, and then potentially to help some others. And that's what I do. That's the reason I do what I do. That's the reason I'm in this job that I'm in now. That's the reason that I volunteer for this radio show. It's the reason why I work with over a dozen previously or currently incarcerated people, and why we're working so hard to try and set up lived experience criminology / convict criminology in Australian universities, because it's going to provide a vehicle for guys that have guys and girls that have screwed up to get the chance to actually change policy and procedure for others.
I love that. I love that. It's what I was thinking is, that's very clear, and often for me, almost always, I notice that any adversity overcome usually is pointing in the direction of my purpose. So it's my adversity was most of my adversity was self-inflicted. I I did lots of illegal dealings. I never got caught, not on that level. But it's when you're going through something like that, whatever it is, like whatever is coming down the pipe for you, whether it be a mental challenge, a physical challenge, a challenge around your freedom, a challenge around attack on your character, disabilities, whatever it is. What I've learned in time, and always in hindsight, is that there's always a hidden lesson, blessing, and meaning in that. And I've gotten good at going to that before I fall into some sort of victim mindset, or blaming other people, or just feeling like I got dealt a bad hand, and I look for the reasons behind it, and how I could take that to go higher and be of service to others. But one of the things that struck me when you were speaking was what you got coming up down the pipe now, is like, when this happened, when you did what you did and you got caught and it got blown up and put into the papers, a lot of what you considered to be family and friends, you saw their true colors. You saw who were really in your corner and who wasn't. And I know that that's painful and that hurts, but part of me thinks like, oh, well, that's, to know where you stand with these people is a really good position to be in, as opposed to like thinking that you have all these allies who really don't fucking give a fuck. But I could, sometimes in an annoying way, I could look for, like, when people are going through something hard, they need to find this stuff out on their own. It's like, I can't, if someone gets handed a shit sandwich and I'm trying to sell them how it's a gift, sometimes that's not appropriate. But that type of stuff gets uncovered through life experience if you come out the other side. So yeah, that's kind of what came to mind to me when you were sharing your story. Is like, I like to know where I stand. Like, I appreciate people who is what you see is what you get. And even if I don't like that, at least I know exactly where to maneuver myself in relationship to them, you know?
For sure. One of the things that comes up for me when I'm hearing this stuff too is two things. Let me say two things. First of all, there's this promise that gets thrown around in recovery around I do not wish to shut the door on my past, and I absolutely don't today. So I just want to acknowledge that. And then that stuff that you talked about around family, Lucas, and I don't know what you think, Joey, and you, Lucas, but I think a lot of people, like, they're scared of how people will interpret the way they respond. So it might not even be true and authentic the way that they acted. And I don't know why I'm trying to give them a bit of a justification here, but I just see this often. People are so scared about the way other people will perceive their actions that sometimes they follow suit and they do what other people do, and it may not even be their true belief. Like, who gives a shit? Well, I get people do, but yeah, I just want to acknowledge that too. Just because you did get coded by some of those people, I wonder how many of them actually regret the way they responded as well.
Do you know what though, Danny? Too, right? And this is something that I sort of work with now. And there's a couple of people I have really struggle and keep myself working every day at trusting people, because when some of the closest people in the world to you effectively turn and drop you like a hot potato, I work really hard to try and trust. And I'll say this to you, Danny, in exact words: is the people, when I start trusting, I become rusted on, and that's the way it is. But the challenge is that I actually, if you asked me this a year ago, I probably wouldn't have had this thought, but I actually not feel sorry for, it's not the right word, but I empathize for some of the people that have made the decisions towards who they act with, because number one is I don't know whether they actually know how to process this. Because how do you process when someone that you're friends with, someone that you've had coach you, someone that you love, someone that is a family member, breaks this idealistic mold that they've had of you in their head? They don't know how to deal with that. And for some people who have maybe not had the best childhoods or the best work themselves, maybe the easiest way is to cut that person off 100%. Because it's an issue that they don't have to or don't understand how to deal with. And I find that myself in my world, it's a behaviour characteristic that I wish I didn't have. But if someone crosses me, I don't go away to hurt them or to really destroy them or anything like this. But it's easier for me to chop. And if I cut, then for me, I have less. I have as much of an emotional attachment to this pen as I do for some people who I previously had emotional attachments to, because that's my way of processing. So the people that have dropped me, I'm not angry at.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
angry.
exactly what I was saying.
I empathize with them. I understand that they are where they are because they have to be.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge that. You just hit the nail on the head. So you do the same thing and it's built into us, into our system sometimes. I'm actually the complete opposite. I let people go and go and go. Like, it takes so much for me to cut someone off, But anyway, whatever. That's just me. But yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that.
It's the other challenge that goes with it too is that then when you meet people when you meet people with work, and I'm working with a really good fella now who I trust well, and he gets it. I hide nothing from him. He knows every part of me and not me, but the decision as to how he responds to me is completely on to him, because he knows all the information about me. He knows everything about me, and that's the new method of my madness. Is initially when I came home from being incarcerated, is I had a sort of like a light bulb moment. I was sitting on the couch at home, and you're on, as you are when you come home, you're on government support. You've got to go through all your process of getting everything under control. And I sat there and said to myself, is that I can either sit here and turn into a 150 kilo piece of shit that sits here whose kids are going to look at me and not be proud of me, who can let a mistake, or a set of mistakes own me, or I can get my fat ass off the couch, get to the gym, get on to seek and find a job and start at the bottom again and start working your way back up again. And, the first job for me was working because I had to tell my story. So I went into, initially went into the mindset of, if I don't tell anyone about this, I might just be able to snag a job anyway and they'll never find out and we're okay. About 3 months of that, I had to build up my rejection tolerance because I was getting no for everything. I mean, man, I had a doctorate and 3 master's degrees, and I couldn't get a job driving a fucking forklift, and I couldn't get a job in any other spaces along these lines. And I was lucky enough to find a lady named Penny Cretal who worked for a company, and I sent my application in and went and had the interview and was talking, and then I said to her, "Hey, Penny, just so you're aware, we do a police clearance. There's going to be something that pops up." And her exact words were, she goes, "You didn't kill anyone, did you?" I said, "No, I didn't." And she goes, "Cool, I'm set. Can you start Monday?" And I'm like, "Really?" She goes, "Yeah." I cried. I gave her a hug, this woman who I'd met once, because she then told me, though, she said, she goes, "I get you for cheaper than what I would have to get you normally because you need me more than I need you." And I'm like, "You're so true." She said it with a smile on her face. And that's how it worked. And then that started. So then from there, I had to tell my story. And that's when I started to use the story as me. Like, I'm not going to hide it. This is what I did. But coming with that, Joe and Danny, is a lived experience that is unique, a lived experience paired with theoretical experience, practical experience. I'm now different to what I was when I went away. And this sounds nuts to say, but I wouldn't have found this calling if I hadn't gone to jail. And I know that is ridiculous to say.
No, it's not. And in fact, like, just a little self-disclosure from me too. Like, I have a lengthy record. I know you guys are going to be shocked to believe it, but I
wow, really?
Record. But anyway, on the flip side of what you say, it's been my record, my lived experience, and me telling my story and my narrative the last 2 years or 3 years, that there's so many opportunities available now. All these opportunities that came from me sharing my story. Like, I think we're very blessed, or I feel very blessed to be part of my journey and have all the carnage of my past, because crazily enough, people like that. And today, I do get offered work all the time that I would never, ever have expected. So, yeah, it's a good thing, I think, Lucas.
It definitely puts us in a unique position of being of service to others who are walking the same path. And it's definitely a relief. I mean, I can't say, I mean, we're all humans and we all wear our masks, and nobody's completely vulnerable, but it's a relief to not have to hide anything. Like, and like, the truth is I'm really open about my past, and my struggles and my struggles with alcohol and drugs, and how I lived, and I've lost opportunities. I've lost opportunities for work. I've lost opportunities for relationships. But any opportunities lost, I've gained tenfold in the ability to be of service to others, tenfold. And those are my biggest failures. Those are my biggest shortcomings. And like, that's the type of stuff, like, I get to share every day, the parts of me that if I let stay in the dark grow and take over my life. And every time I get to share it, I get a little bit lighter, because, our dark sides and that part of ourselves that we hide from the world grows in the dark. So when I bring it out into the light, not only am I opening myself up to connect on a cellular level with somebody who is walking the same path, but I become a little more free every time I share it, which is, you can't put a price tag on that.
No, that's the blessing, man. Hey guys, Lucas, how you going for time? We've got about 10 minutes max before we wrap it up. About 5 to 10 minutes. Anything else you want to share with us, Lucas, about your journey? Is there anything you want to tell our audience?
I think I think the tides are turning here in Australia with regards to lived experience. I think and I think it's turning. I think that the chances for people to share their stories in a positive way, whether that be incarceration, mental health, drug and alcohol, even to the extent of suicide attempts and self-harm attempts, is these lived experience things are growing. And I say this to anyone I speak to, and I was presenting at a major university here a couple of days ago on lived experience and its importance in research. And I think for me is that the two most successful recovery mechanisms or recovery machines for anyone in the world are Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. And the two of those things are led by peer support people with lived experience. So we're coming from here, and I use an analogy, and Danny's heard me say this, I use an analogy of a four-wheel drive, and I have the front wheel and the back wheels. The front wheel is policymakers, our educators, our researchers, and the back wheel is lived experience people. If you take the back wheel lived experience off, the front wheel is going to drag its ass up the hill. It's still going to get there, but it's going to drag its ass up the hill and take a lot longer to get there than it was, and the ride ain't going to be as smooth. If you put the back wheel on, just lived experience, and take the front wheel off, we're going to get there too, but we're going to be pushing shit uphill to get there. By the time we get there, we're going to have all this stuff loaded on the front of this van. It's going to make it real hard. But if you pair research, lived experience, and policymakers front wheel with back wheel being lived experience, guys and girls that have lived it and know about it, Jesus, that's a smooth ride. That's a car I want to get on, because that shit's going to go up that hill. Mate, we're going to be waving at people walking past. Is going to be, mate, how good a deal is that going to be? And the thing that I think a lot of people are starting to recognize, and it's going to take a step, because the space that I'm in, the pure university numbers in Australia, we're talking 30 universities in Australia, give or take, compared to 5,000 universities in the US. So we need to make some small changes in regards to the ability to educate people that are incarcerated. There are a couple of universities here that have specific programs for incarcerated students, but they don't have any teachers that have lived experience. So we talk, but we're not necessarily walking the walk in a lot of spaces too. And I think that gap is closing. I think the more lived experience people that get into spaces where they can influence policy and procedure and influence the education of others will assist for those that will be coming past us when the three of us are pushing up daisies.
It's great to be on the front line of all this progressive change to help people who are incarcerated or have been incarcerated, and it's and I know we have a short amount of time, and there's a lot that you said that I want to address, but one of the things specifically was, the difference between knowledge and wisdom. You didn't put it in those words, but the difference between knowledge and wisdom is lived experience. You can only acquire wisdom through experiences, and so that's the missing piece of a pie. I think it's why community works. People in community with with a similar problem and a similar solution, and AA and NA are really good examples of that, because alcoholism and drug addiction existed since the beginning of time, and the best minds, the best scientists, the best doctors, the best theologians, the best theorists, the best therapists, the best that they can come up with was put these people behind in a cage, and chain them away. And then this thing got created where it was just one alcoholic talking to another alcoholic, or one addict talking to another addict, and all of a sudden people were starting to get well. That's not a coincidence. That's the lived experience part. That was the missing piece of the pie. and it wasn't knowledge that can be acquired from a book or through education. It's only acquired through lived experience. So like, I love the metaphor of the car. Like you need all of those wheels to go smoothly. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
And the other thing that goes with that, Joe, is that I think it's really important to make sure that people don't think that we can replace good quality knowledge and good quality skills, such as in an academic space. Like, I don't think there's anyone suggesting that I've got lived experience, so I've been to jail, so I'm a better criminologist than you are. Like, I think there's some that make that mistake.
Yeah.
And I think there's some that make that mistake, and I think they get brought down really quickly. But a point that you mentioned is, I feel really comfortable speaking to people such as Danny. We only just met today, Joe, but I feel super comfortable talking to people that I know have been incarcerated before, because I know that I don't have to hide anything. There's no, but they know what it's like. They know what it's like having to lift your nuts up and have someone have a look at it. They know what, they know what being strip search is like. They know what being away from your family is about. They know what these things are, and they've seen you at your worst. So there's a couple of guys that I served some time with that I still stay in contact with now, that effectively when I went, I shouldn't have been mates with them. I was there for a 5-minute blip, and two of the guys that I become the closest mates with were both there for Knox, both there for 30 years. And by the letter of the law in Australian jails is that white collar, mini minnow shouldn't be mates with the big fries, but was. And I still stay in contact with those guys and stay close to them now. And then we speak on the phone and we have a laugh and joke, because they've seen me at my worst. No one else on the outside has.
Yeah.
That's, guys, I haven't shared this too, but part of my work, I work with guys coming from prison often, but what that results in is people read up, say 1-2 years down the track, or maybe 3 months down the track, and they go back to prison. And my week is often made up of, this is a call from the Silverwater Correctional Centre, the message that it plays in the beginning. So it's so powerful. Like, once we build those connections, and certainly in rehabilitation with, say, myself or with other workers and their peers, we always remember, like, the seed had been planted. So these guys are calling me years down the track. Some of them, like, I've had 1 or 2 guys who called me every single week for their whole sentence, 2-3 years, which is an amazing position for me to be in as well. And you got 6 minutes, because the jail phone calls are timed to 6 minutes. So I get that call. It's a really bizarre phone call, because as soon as I hear that message, I know, okay, next 6 minutes, Dan, this is my service. Shut up and just listen and be there and be a friend to them. So whatever's going on, I know for the next 6 minutes I can really focus on being. And that's actually, like, when you sometimes get phone calls from someone that get drag on. Well, I'm not a big talker on the phone, so I know I've got 6 minutes to give myself to those people. So it's amazing. And just one more thing, like what you just started off with then, Lucas, it's important to acknowledge that having our history doesn't always have to be a positive thing too. So I'm not, and we're not, I'm sure, recommending anyone out there listening to go and get a criminal record and start using drugs and abusing yourself, because lived experience, that's not what we're suggesting.
As like a career move, like, I'm going to go out and get myself a career coach, incarcerated people, so let me go get locked up.
and I guess especially it's not a good move, because it's taken me 27 years now from the day I picked up and just started destroying my life to where I am now. So if you're going to do it, be young, at least, if you're going to start that career anyway.
You're right, man. Education, and I know you didn't say it formally, but education is the key to this whole thing, is that how you educate it. Like some people's education is a course to learn more about himself. Some people's education is to go and get a master's degree or a doctorate degree. But mate, I'm 40. Geez, how old am I, Danny? 44 now, and mate, I'm still a student now. I come to a place where I work at. I work at a care school, which is a reintegration school for kids that have been kicked out of normal schools, and mate, I learn every day, because. And funnily enough, I said to one of the guys I work with, I said, mate, this is just like the yard. And that's the teachers, not the fucking kids, the teachers are like the yard. You know, there's the smart ass kid over there that's a hardcore fucking cokehead. He doesn't know what he's doing. Mate, they're teachers. Like, so, you know, you look at it and it's like, you know, I'm learning every day. And I love the fact that I get to work with some younger guys. And I said, the guy that I work with beforehand that I'm working with specifically. And I just love and I smile. And he's in the room, so I don't want him to get a big head. But he like, I see some of the progression already, and I see what opportunities are going to be for someone like him. And I look at it and it makes me smile. And it's like, you feel like an Obama moment. You drop your microphone. It's like, my job's done. I've helped someone. You know, someone's going to get a better outcome in life just because you've been able to give them the tiniest little bit of help that has then steered them on their own way. And then you keep doing your own journey too. And that's what I do. I live it every day. That's what I try and do every day.
Beautiful. Boys, we're out of time, man. I've got another meeting on.
All right, let's wrap it up.
Celebrity.
How are we going to wrap this up, Joey? Have we got something we do at the end of each show?
Yeah. So we'll make it quick because since you got another meeting, but we like to share our top tips, tools, strategies, or hacks to generate gratitude in our lives. And one came to me today that I hadn't thought of, and it came to me on its own. And I wanted to share it. I was in the park, like I mentioned earlier in the show, and I was sitting in the sun, and my mind drifted back to when I was a child, like a young child, like, you know, under 5. And I remembered laying in my grandmother's backyard and staring at the clouds and just being in such awe and having such wonder about, like, what was all this all about? Like, how do they move? Why are they hanging above the earth? And my eyes were closed, and it might have been a minute or two. I'm not really sure. But I opened my eyes. First of all, I was flooded with gratitude, right? And, like, I think the key piece is to be looking for things to feed that yearning for wonder and awe. But anyway, something amazing happened to me because I opened my eyes, and there was like a 2-year-old little kid, like, was running at me and was about 2 or 3 feet away. Her father was chasing her. She must have scooted away, but she came running up to me. She had a little soccer ball, and she handed me the soccer ball, and then she hugged my leg and put her head on my leg. And, like, I was like, it was such a beautiful moment. And I don't think it's a coincidence that I was in a childlike mind space. I didn't do it on purpose, but I was in this childlike, and I attracted that little child. So there's a tool in there somewhere. I'm going to have to develop it a little further, but that's what I wanted to share tonight.
Let's go, Joey. Thank you.
Love it, brother.
Lucas, have you got a tip for us on how to become happier and a more grateful person?
Every Friday night at our place now, it's winter. And my little boys, and I've got a 4 and a 7-year-old, and they love having a fire pit. So we've got one of those gallon drums. We cut it in half. We welded some legs on the bottom of it. And every Friday night, unless it's raining, of course, but we set up a fire outside. We put it out on the concrete, and we sit back, and the boys put some wood in. And it's almost, for me, it's a cathartic thing because I look at the fire, and every single time I see a log go on, no matter if the log is twisted, the log is black, it's white, it's got a hole in it, it's shit wood, it's good wood, it's whatever it is, it can go on there and it gets burnt, and it reduces to zero. But then what happens with it first thing Sunday morning after it's cooled down is those ashes go into our garden and they regenerate growth again. And I know that sounds like a twisted idea, but tonight it'll be the week for me going into that fire pit. It'll be the tiniest little bit of something negative in the past going into that fire pit, and that thing burns. But I know in 2 days' time, I'm going to be burying that thing into either the garden or into our compost bin and regenerating life somewhere else.
I love it.
Very, very cool.
Thank you, man.
I love the story behind that. And Joey and Lucas, I guess for me, what I do with this is I try and just think about something that we've said in today's episode, and the thing that's coming up for me was that the thing where I said, like, a mate needs to talk, and I just tell myself to shut up and just listen. You know, sometimes just giving 5 minutes of myself without trying to have the answers. It's just listening listening is the key. It's part of my work, absolutely, and I think it's such a powerful thing and a powerful gift we can give somebody else is just that gift of time to just sit down and listen, nod our head. Don't try and have the answers. Just just be with them. So that's my little tip to improve.
I love that, Danny. It's so true, and it's so hard to do, especially for me anyway. It's like usually when somebody's speaking to me, I'm thinking about how I can help them, and that means I'm not fucking listening to them.
No,
so like really truly listening to somebody and just keeping our mouth shut and not having to fix it or change it or judge it. I mean, that is a gift, and that would definitely increase and generate gratitude. I could see.
Absolutely, that's the goal. Thank you, everyone who has joined us today. We've had a bit of interaction, guys. We are very grateful to have you on board. I really appreciate you too, Lucas. You're a very smart man. I get that from you. I love all the work that you're doing, and it is an honor to know you, to be connected with you, and also to learn from you as well. And Joey, you're a legend also, and always, mate. I appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, I appreciate the both of you. It was a great show. Lucas, I hope to connect with you and get to know you better. Danny, love you. We'll do it again next week.
Hang on there for a sec, Lucas. I'm just going to end the broadcast later, guys.
Thanks, guys.